trying to say while you are using this electronic equipment?
Não é violência, é terror.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video so far. You just watched a collection of clips of me working with a mod that we're going to be adding to our private server here in the near future. That mod being SABS Ultralights. Now I'm going to have a link in the description that's going to take you to the Steam Workshop page where you can check out this mod and of course many other great mods, and definitely cross-link from this mod to the other mods that this creator has put out. And also, while you're there, leave him some positive comments in the comment section, because just from this mod alone, he's obviously put a lot of hard work into what he's put out, and it's the little details that make a mod like this work. So, before I go into the details like that, I'm going to tell you why we wanted this. We run a Arma 3 Exile server. Most of us that are playing on this server are old school Arma 2 DayZ gamers. We spend a lot of time griping about the things we don't like with Arma 3 and the things we did like with Arma 2. And one of the things that comes up quite frequently is the Mozzie. Love it or hate it, the Mozzie was a very strong part of that game for a lot of DayZ players. For those of y'all that don't know what the Mozzie is, it was a little helicopter that was usually a constructible item based off of a toolbox, main rotor assembly, and an engine in the player's inventory. When constructed, it was a red tubular framework with a seat, a propane tank, an engine, and a main rotor. That was it. Doesn't seem like much, but when you're stuck in the middle of Panthera, or you're sitting on top of the volcano in Tabby, and no other way of getting down, that little thing was a godsend. We wanted something like that. Now, yes, Arma 3 has the ability to have things like that, and most of the time you'll see something like the Prowler, a little four-wheel drive urban assault wannabe vehicle, and to us that was just overpowered. That's where this comes in. We stumbled on this mod and automatically lit up to it. It just looks the part of what we want. Very simple construction. As you can see here, you can see through the material that the control surfaces and wings are made out of. So moving over here to the wing, again, the material is very translucent. It just gives you that feel that this is a true ultralight vehicle. Coupled with the fact that you have a very simple tubular construction, the cable working to kind of hold it, rigid together, the simple controls, a seat, jerry can for a fuel tank. That's very old school Arma. Love that little touch. This right here that I've put the orange steering wheel icon over, that is your HUD, the heads-up display. The guys that like the first-person flying as much as I do, you're going to love the fact that this actually works. Now, I don't personally spend a lot of time staring at the artificial horizon on this. I'm more interested in flying. But there's a lot of people out there that love the fact that the gauges work in some models and hate the fact that it doesn't work in others. This one, guys, it works. So that right there is just another little asset, another little detail that is awesome to have in this whole picture of what we have here. So before we try to get this thing in the air, you'll notice in the drop-down menu once you're in the pilot seat that you have control functions for the flaps. That's both to raise them and to lower them so that you can take off and land a lot easier. You also have a control function for the autopilot landing, which will take you to the nearest runway, level you out, and touch you down relatively safely. Now this will take you the long way because it's going to take the safest, levelest route to get to that runway. Alright, so I'm going to make this point very often throughout the rest of this video. This aircraft is not very fast, guys. It's max speed, level flight, in great conditions is somewhere around 70. Takeoff speed, you can manage 22 to 23. In reality, you really want to have it closer to 30. And even then, you do not want to nose up too drastically. It will stall, it will crash, and life will suck. But the speed aside, this aircraft is agile, very agile, and in reality, very forgiving to mistakes that you make. Because it's moving at such a slow speed, you have time to react to the mistakes. You have time to recover, to overcorrection. So long as you don't overcorrect so bad that you put this thing in the ground. It's one of those aircraft that honestly has a lot of capability that people don't realize. because they're more interested in aircraft that are supersonic. They're more interested in the vertical takeoff and landing and rockets and guns and stuff like that. They miss out on what this aircraft can bring to the table simply because it is too simple for their taste. So let's go ahead and get this thing started up, get it in the air, and I can tell you a little bit more about what I'm talking about as I'm actually flying this thing around. So you'll notice that when you start the engine up, it doesn't automatically start moving forward. Again, guys, it's a slow vehicle. It's not very quick. It's not going to win you any races. But once you get the motor spooled up, it'll start pushing itself forward. Now you'll notice here in the first person view, when I bring the throttle back, he moves the throttle, pushes it forward, again he moves the throttle. Slight controls changes actually translate into the controls you see in the first person mode. Again, those little details, those things stand out to players that really want to be immersed in the game. So you'll see here when I try to take off, I nose up too hard and she drops back down to the ground. This is what you're going to do a lot until you get used to how to take this thing off. And when you do it really bad, it will start smoking and it will lose engine power, and you will not be able to get it on, be able to get this thing in the air once you've done that a few times. So ideally, what you want to do is just gradually lift the nose up once you hit a decent speed to take off, and then don't try to gain altitude too quickly. I mean, even the angle you're seeing me fly at right now is just a little bit too much for the speed that I'm at. But you can counter it. You'll notice a couple of the takeoffs I did in the collection of clips at the beginning. I was taking off from hills, using gravity to do the work for me. That's something to consider when you're trying to take this off for the first few times, just so you can get used to how it operates. Now you'll notice that when I try to turn this aircraft, it banks pretty well. I'm only giving about a quarter, if that, of the control movement on my controls to translate to these large movements you're seeing this aircraft make. This of course can be changed in your control settings to be less or more sensitive to your fit. But for what this aircraft is able to do, I'm quite comfortable with the amount of movement that it's got. Something else to consider, along with the agility that this aircraft has, is because it's so light, you can shut off the engine. And by doing that, you've essentially turned this vehicle into a glider. Once the motor stops turning, this thing is dead silent. You will not hear it coming. If they're not looking in the direction you're at, the direction you're coming from, they're not going to know you're there. If you get this thing up to around 60, 70-ish, you can hear the airflow over the wings, but it's not very loud. Now, if you really want to increase the range at which you can glide, you can start the engine up occasionally, give yourself a little bit of a boost, and keep pushing yourself along that way. Now, if you get this thing up pretty high in the air, last time I did it about 250 meters, moving at about 70, and then shut the engine off, you can glide a very, very long distance before you have to actually touch down or use the motor to push yourself along again. What I'm trying to get at with this is you could use this vehicle to get into places most people would not expect you to go, because they would expect you to fly something and hear it coming or see it coming. This thing's dead silent. They won't know you're coming. Therefore, they won't know to look. Now, as far as the landings go, uh, the same takeoff speed you had before, the low end takeoff speed of around 21, 22, you can manage a landing at that. Ideally, you want to be around the teens, 16 to 19 I found is best. As you saw, nice and soft landing, nothing got damaged, I didn't get hurt. The vehicle is perfectly right where I need it to be if I want to turn it around, take off again. Just watch out for inclines because this thing's not going to climb any hills on its own. That's pretty much all I've got to say about this mod. Again, this has been the SABS Ultralight mod. The link's going to be in the description to the Steam Workshop page. Definitely go check this mod out. It's probably one of the best mods I've seen of this type in a long time. And surprisingly, it's already been out for 2 years. So shoot on over to that workshop page. Give this guy a couple of good comments. He's obviously worked hard on this. It's an amazing aircraft. One of the last things I'm going to do before I close this video out is I'm going to put a little piece at the end so you can see what this aircraft looks like at night with all the lights lit up, because it's actually pretty dang impressive. So thanks again for watching, guys, and hopefully I'll have some better content up for you in the future.